to talk about fishing line. So let's touch base on all the fishing lines that we use for our different types of fishing that we use it for. Our three mains that we use in bass fishing are going to be mainly your mono, your braid, and of course your fluorocarbon, okay? Why we use these and why I use them, okay? Excuse me. Woo! Anyway, let's talk braid, okay? Why would I use braid? Typically, I'm going to use braid on top water. I use it on my Texas rigs, and I like using it for my swim jigs, okay? Because I'm going to be putting this in some pretty dense stuff. That is weeds or brush, whatever it is, laydowns of some sort of structure. You want to be able to winch these fish out of those areas. So you want to have some strong stuff. Braid is what I recommend. Now, typically, I will not run a leader on my braid. Remember, your preference and my preference are different, and not only that, our waters are different. Now here in southern Colorado, we have a lot of stained and tinted and dark waters. So when I'm throwing those type of jigs, my water's typically dark anyway, so I'm gonna steer away from adding a leader, whether it be mono or fluoro. I prefer to use straight braid. That is my personal preference, and that's what works for me. Now a lot of people say, well, there could be it's going to scare the fish or bother the fish. In my area, it doesn't, especially early spring, early summer, late summer, fall. Fish are trying to eat. They're ready to gorge. There's been times where I've lost almost a spool of line, and all I had was bright yellow braided line in the spawn time, and these fish were hitting it, and that line was sticking out like a light in the water, and they still were smashing it. So it's all going to be the time of use, okay? If it's those times of use, these guys are gorging. They're ready to eat. It's a hunger time right now. They're eating to get fat. And at those times, if you fish a lot of bass, you understand the bass will pretty much eat anything you drop right in front of them at that time, okay? Now in the middle months of the summer, they're more finicky, they're harder to catch, they become kind of lethargic in a way. You know, it's going to take something very special for them to strike. Sometimes not, just depending on the time of day most times. Why I prefer straight braid when I'm using those is because it's powerful, okay? It's going to get you through tough times, tough situations. It's not going to fail you. And the type of line that I use typically, no, not typically, all the time, there is no other braid that I will ever go to, and it's Power Pro. Top water, I'm using 65 pound. When I'm using my Texas rigs and swim jigs, 40, 30, 50, somewhere around those, okay? Power Pro has never failed me. Okay? It's never failed me. It's always been powerful. It's delivered in every aspect of the word power, okay? Power Pro, and that's the reason why it's called that. I've used Berkeley, I've used Spiderwire, and trust me guys, the Berkeley gives out. If you don't retie often, don't expect where you're not, and your line and the flex of the bait moving, that wears down so fast that you'll be casting it, finally hook it to a fish, and then right when you get to shore, it'll break. It's happened to me numerous times with Berkeley braided line, and I was pissed. I did not like it. It's failed me. I will not use it. Same thing with Spiderwire. I do not like Spiderwire. There's something about it, the feel of it when you get it brand new, once you get the wax coating off of it, and it becomes weak. It becomes weak, and it does not hold up over time. Power Pro does not have that problem, guys. I recommend Power Pro. Every time you're going to hear me say Power Pro, okay? That is where it's at. It works perfect. It's never failed me. Throughout the years of using Power Pro, I've never had a point where I didn't like it. I've always loved it. It's always performed well and done a great job. Now, why I choose Power Pro? I guess that was just it. Now let's get on to mono, okay? Why mono over fluoro, and why fluoro over braid, and blah, blah, blah. Guys, fishing is all about preference. Not only preference, it's also going to be about where you're at. Fishing is about those type of things. So when you're hearing guys across the United States saying, oh, I use this in the Great Lakes and blah blah, you need to use this fluorocarbon. Okay, well, if they're fishing Great Lakes, guys, Great Lakes has a lot of clear water. Of course you want to use fluorocarbon. But if you're fishing where I'm at, you don't need fluorocarbon. The reason why I don't like fluorocarbon over mono is typically these reasons. Mono does something great. Mono does some things bad. When it comes to mono, you have stretch. I love stretch. I love stretch in my line because when I'm getting the stretch, you got some give way between you and the fish. If the fish hits hard, he takes off. And a lot of people fail to remember that when you have not the drag set, or you don't have some type of leeway in your line between you and the fish pop off. Okay? Believe it or not, guys. Same thing with braid. We're using 65-pound braid on this. Now, from experiences that I've had, I'm like thinking, well, I have 65-pound braid. I ain't setting no drag. I'm winching this thing all the way down to no drag whatsoever. Well, fish kept popping off, and I couldn't figure out why. Why are these fish popping off? I'm letting the hook go a little longer. I'm seeing the fish carry it for a longer period of time, then I'm setting the hook. Okay, and I would catch some, but a lot were popping off. And the reason why they were popping off is because I didn't have no leeway between me and the fish. When you pull, you get a hook up, then you start reeling, the fish got this little wiggle thing he does, and he's able to pop off. Now, if you tighten your drag, when you set the hook, you get that zzz. Now you got some space between you and the fish. Now you got some leeway there. So if the fish gets crazy, the line gives little by little, especially when you're setting the hook. When you set the hook, you got to have some leeway. Whether you're using 65, 30, or whatever it is you're using, use your drag, okay? Not only is it to give you some type of some leeway when the fish is pulling so your line don't break, but it also helps you in keeping that fish on when you set the hook. Believe it or not, okay? I went through a whole summer trying to figure that out, why I was losing so many fish. And then finally it dawned on me, well, the summer before I was using this, but I didn't have the drag so tight. So if you're not hearing a zzz when you set that hook on a fish, your drag is too tight. You want to use your drag. Keep that in mind, guys. That's a big thing. So if you're having the problem of losing a lot of fish, using big line, and you got your drag winched all the way down, give it some room to move, guys. Okay? Let that drag do its job. That's what it's there for. Not only to help you when you're pulling in the fish so you don't break your line, but it's also there to help you when you set that hook so you don't pop the fish off. And I think I'm crazy. I don't care. I've done enough fishing in my days to know what I'm talking about, and I'm sharing this with you because I've seen a lot of people do it. I've had a guy where I was fishing in a spot. I had just got there and I started winching these fish in. Well, I was watching him hook and he was setting the hook great. I set the hook to cross the eyes of the fish. He was doing the same thing, but he was using big line and he had that winch down. So I had made the recommendation saying, hey, what size line you want there? He goes 65. I go, well, try loosening your drag a bit. So when you set that hook, you have that little stretch between you and the fish can't pop off. Oh, this is 65-pound line, it ain't gonna break. It's not about breaking, brother. It's not about breaking. It's about understanding logistics between you and the fish and some leeway between the fish and you. And so he stuck to his word, and I walked away. Maybe about 20 minutes later, he started setting the hook, but I started hearing that zzz between him and the fish. So he listened to what I said, and what happened? Of course, the fish started staying on. So that's why I'm recommending you guys try that if you're having that problem, okay? Now back to mono. Mono has its ups and its downs. I tend to change out mono quite often because of how mono becomes, okay? Mono gives me the stretch that I'm looking for when I'm using my crankbaits, my lipless crankbaits, my square bills, spin baits, sometimes chatterbaits. A lot of those type of baits I like to use mono because I have the stretch with it, and it works well with those type of baits. Okay, and not necessarily do you set the hook in that situation with crankbaits or stuff like that. You're more like leaning back into the fish, okay, and let the fish doing the work for himself to get hooked. So And I love the stretch between you and the fish when it comes to that. It's going to help you, especially when you have that type of using bait casters and you're using the crankbait. It just loads up well with the rod. The line loads up well with the fish, and you just do your job by leaning back and letting the fish do the work. I really enjoy using mono. The downside to mono is once you get it kinked or you get it twisted, or you're out of luck, guys. You need to change that line. Now mono tends to break down. Keep this in mind. I change it out, especially when you're using smaller lines, okay? Trilin, Zebco, Omniflex are my two go-to when it comes to mono line. Now, when you use mono line, it tends to break down in water. Once the sun's hit it, the water it starts to break down. It loses this nice little shiny tint that it got there. It becomes dull. Not only that, it becomes brittle. So remember that, guys. That's why we want to change our mono lines often, yearly. We never want to keep them going throughout years because they become brittle and they will stretch, but they will break too. So if you have a lot of kinks, like one time I had a lot of kinks in the line and I was down to no line and this line was just ripped to shreds. So what I did is I ran it through some hot water on the spool in the faucet, and it formed back to the spool very well. Keep in mind though, hot water will weaken your line, so be careful with that. But that is a quick little trick. If you need to do so, it'll reduce the line twist. It'll fix up the kinks somewhat, but it will work. But those are the things I like to use. I never use a liter of fluoro with my mono. Okay, I go straight mono. If I do use a liter with braid, it's going to be mono. Sometimes it will be fluoro, depending on the clarity of the water. Now, as you can tell, fluoro I'm not the biggest fan of because I've had problems with fluoro. It doesn't have the stretch. Not only that, if you put fluoro under enough pressure, that it tends to explode rather than break. Okay, your line like mono, it's gonna break. So is your fluoro, but your fluoro is gonna do something different. When it reaches a certain amount of pressure, it explodes. It not only just breaks, it combusts. Okay, and it can do it in multiple places. I've had that happen a lot with fluoro. I never use straight fluoro real. I might put a couple yards, a few yards for a liter or whatever I'm using it for, but that is it, okay? If you're using, you're going crappie fishing and stuff like that, and you want your small little spinners to sink to the bottom faster, go fluoro. If you're fishing clear water, go fluoro. But typically, I'm gonna choose braid, mono, over fluoro any day. Now you hear all these other guys saying, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. No, you don't. You gotta experiment what is in your area and what works for you, okay? I'm telling you these things because this is my area and what I've learned throughout the years of fishing for bass and crappie and walleye and stuff like that. What lines I like to use and preferably why I use them. Now, if you choose to use fluoro, keep in mind your line is going to sink, okay? It's going to sink a lot more. Not so much with mono nor braid. So you want to keep that in mind when you're using these two. Now, if you like to use liters, I prefer to use a fluorocarbon leader, depending on the clarity of the water. Now, if I'm fishing, let's say a little riverway, and the water is pretty settled and it's clear, I'm gonna throw me on a liter of fluoro, depending if I'm using top water or not. Okay. And more so than others, you're gonna have to use more of a finesse type of trick anyway to catch in clear water. So just go fluoro. Do I ever use a liter of fluoro with mono or a liter of mono with fluoro? No, I don't. If I'm gonna use a liter, it's gonna be mainly on my braid, okay? And that's personal preference. What you guys prefer to do, that's all up to you, but I'm sharing with you what I like to do, and it works just fine. You know what I mean? For catfish, I like trilingual. Okay, big game, 40-pound, green or straight. And to be honest, guys, the type of water you're going to be fishing, which I'm going to be fishing normally early mornings, evenings, and nights, this doesn't make a difference, the color, okay? All you need is a good line. I always make my leaders ahead of time with the snell knot to a barrel swivel with probably a foot or 2 feet leader line, okay? And that's what I do with my catfish, called a Carolina braid. That's what I like to use, that's my preference, and it works every time. I never have a problem with it, delivers well, and that's what I like to use. So the reason why I wanted to touch base on these type of lines is because I hear a lot of people say, you know, there's a lot of talk out there in the world. There's so many different techniques, you know, that people say this is the way to do this. There is no proper way to do things as long as you're catching fish. If you're not catching fish, then it's time to take note, okay? People tend to be too proud and claim to know everything rather than take note and try to learn something these days that if we were to slow down, we could change a lot of things, not only in fishing, but the world itself. But that's a different story for a different time. But I do recommend using mono. I love mono, okay, for those type of baits that I mentioned. I love my Braid Power Pro for those type of baits that I mentioned. Fluorocarbon is pretty much just gonna be my leader line. Like this, I got like 5 yards of leader line on there because when I was fishing for crappie the other day, when I went there, the water had settled well, and it was pretty clear at the reservoir, so I threw on some fluoro on it, and it helped. So this is the way I do things, guys. I hope you can understand. If anything, I hope I showed you something, especially with the drag setup and the braid, you know, stuff like that. I appreciate you guys subscribing. I appreciate you guys liking. I know it ain't much now, but I'm thankful more than ever. I always will be. I appreciate your time. If there's any kind of questions, any type of concerns, get at me, guys. I'm here. I love to share. I love to teach. And not only that, there's a lot that I learn from you guys, and I enjoy learning, and I love to teach. So if there's anything I can help with, hit me up. But yeah, that's my touch on different kinds of fishing lines that I prefer to use in the bass fishing world, the crappie world, the catfish world, you name it. They stretch across the board and they all do the same thing at the end of the day, and that's catch fish. But how you use them and when they use them is what's going to help you either keep the fish or lose the fish. Okay, so if something's not working, guys, remember to change. If it's not working, you got to change. You got to change something up, whether it be what you use it as bait, whether you're using the line, what time of year it is, what time of day it is. We got to keep these things in mind because it's very important. Fish are very, very finicky at times, and it does make a difference. So we got to keep that in mind, that fish are more intelligent than we tend to think. Just at some points in the year, they're just more careless and they succumb to idiocy very easily because they're hungry. They're you know, whatever it is that they're going through. In the middle of summer, they're not going to be so much. You know, you can, but they are a little harder. They tend to slow down, be sluggish, and want to be in deeper water during the summer days. So keep that in mind. So yeah, that's my touch on fishing line, man. If there's anything I can help you with, I'm always here. You guys take care. God bless always. I'll catch you next time.